revolution. I hope you're doing well and staying safe. I miss you guys so much, and I'm really excited to see your beautiful faces again really soon, hopefully. But tonight I have some really special and exciting stuff for you, starting off with the second part of our Hello, My Name Is series with one of our youth counselors, Jason. We also have some special announcements from Taylor Brown and Marissa, and if you guys stick around to the very end, I will be here to sign you off and tell you what's happening for the rest of the week. I hope you guys enjoy it, and I'll see you later.
Hi friends, my name is Marissa and I'm on staff at Grace with the youth ministry. So I'm here to tell you guys about something we are doing that's really exciting. We're right in the middle of this series called Hello, My Name Is. And so in that you can hear staff people, youth counselors, maybe even your small group leader, tell the people watching about their story, about how God has seen them and met them in their life, and how their life is different after being in relationships with God, in a relationship with God. So we believe that stories are super powerful and super valuable. We believe that you can learn so much more from somebody else's life experience than from somebody just talking to you during a lesson or a message. And so here's the deal. Here's why I'm telling you all of this right now. It's because I want you to know that you don't have to be a leader, you don't have to be an adult, you don't have to have your story put together either to share your story with other people. And so we are looking for some students that would be willing to share their story. So if that's you, if you're even a little bit interested, here's what I want you to do. I want you to text the word story to this number on the screen. Story, S-T-O-R-Y, to this number on the screen. We cannot wait to hear from you guys, and we are so excited to see all of the goodness and all of the lives change from you telling your stories.
Hey everybody, Taylor here with another week of Hello, My Name Is, and I'm so excited to have Jason with us today. Jason, how are you doing?
Doing well yourself?
Doing great. Thanks for being here. We're excited to dive in, to hear your story, and hear a little bit more about you, but I have an important question first. We've been asking everyone who sits in this chair the same question, and here it is. If anyone could play you in a movie, like if we did a movie of your life, or if a big studio did a movie of your life, who would be the actor that's cast to play you?
Well, we share a first name and similar initials.
Ooh.
So it would be Jason Statham. Same hairline, around the same age, definitely the same build.
Yeah, definitely the same build. You got that down. No problem. And similar careers? Is that?
Yes, action-packed, explosives guy.
things you do things that you can't tell other people about, or yeah. Okay. We'll move on before we compromise your job or anything. But we're not here to talk about you being a hitman. We're here to talk about your story. So we've been in this series. It's called Hello, My Name Is, and the one thing we've been talking about is we believe, as a youth ministry, as a church, we believe in this truth that everyone has a story. Another church word for story is testimony, and we believe that every single person has a story that is unique to them, but also when we share our stories, we believe that it can help and encourage other people as well.
Oh, absolutely.
And we believe that there's sort of a few different parts to a story. There's your life, or testimony. We believe there's your life before you said yes to God, before you maybe knew who God was. That moment or moments in your life that you're going to share where you said yes or yes again to God. And then also your life after saying yes to God. Now I was wondering if you could just share your story with us. Maybe talking when you were a child and then a teenager, where mostly middle and high schoolers watching. And just share your experience and what are some things maybe along the way that you experienced and how that has shaped you to be who you are today.
All right. So as a child, I grew up on several different farms. My grandfather had cattle, some chickens, and things like that. So I grew up a little bit more
Life on the farm.
Life on the farm. But never really went to church. The only time I really got involved with anything was a brief period, maybe a couple months of Awanas in middle school. And that was mainly because it was on the other side of the pasture. Not pasture, where the cows are kept. Things you don't normally hear around here.
That's, for Florida, we'd have to be more North Florida for you to hear that.
Exactly. Yeah. So, didn't really get involved with youth at all. until high school, did Young Life. Got involved with that mainly just to hang out with friends, smoke, stuff like that. But it was a way to get out of the house, away from the farm. But yeah, my mom didn't really go to church. She read her Bible regularly. My grandmother was the spiritual leader. She was the one who had always had the Kenneth Copeland on, or whatever the 700 Club, whatever those were back then. And that was about the extent of maybe going to church here and there once or twice every couple years to events for something with my grandmother's church. Then we moved to Florida going into my junior year of high school. Moved out to Lehigh, go Lightning. Yet again, not one you hear around here very much.
Another thing that we normally never hear. So yeah, we've had Pastures and Go Lightning, so
Yeah.
we're on a roll today.
Yep. So started the second graduating class. So the first year was open at Lehigh, and within a few months had gotten into a relationship and got a girl pregnant. So at the end of my junior year, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. So I started my senior year. I had a kid while being a kid and going to school. And to get done with school, had to work to make money to pay for the diapers and the formula. And as you know, those aren't cheap.
No.
So try to do that with $3.25 an hour. It's kind of tough. Thank God I had parents that let us live there. So my parents kind of sheltered that a little bit for me to give me a cushion. But I still had to get all my schoolwork done, go to school, go to work full time, take care of a kid. It's not easy. One of the big things that happened during that time was my junior year, we were part of a church. I had been baptized, accepted Christ, but I hadn't started reading the Bible. I just went off whatever the sermon was for that weekend. And the reason we went was because it was literally walking distance from the house. But when my girlfriend started showing that she was pregnant, that's when we stopped getting invites to small groups, Bible studies. It was kind of more of a shunning. And that hurt a lot because it was the one place you're supposed to be safe. It was at church. And to be shunned away from even being able to be a part of something was really tough. So that kind of put a big strike mark against the church for me for a long time. So fast forward to the end of my senior year, I've got a signed contract to join the U.S. Army. I've got an 11-month-old green mohawk, and I'm walking across the stage. And 3 months later, I leave for basic training. Did 6 years in the Army. I brought my son up to live with me. After a few months, we divorced, and she stayed in the area for a little while and then moved out of the area. So it started becoming harder to be a parent and stay in touch. I'd get him a weekend here or a week for a holiday, a couple weeks during the summer for summer break. And then I re-enlisted and had remarried and moved to Colorado. And that made it even harder because being re-enlisted and moved. I lost contact for almost 2 years. And that was hard. When that contract got finished, I decided to stay, get out, be done, move back home to be with family. So I moved back to Florida, and my mom had finally got a hold of family members, so we were able to get back in contact with my son. He came down for a visit. I got a phone call. By the way, keep him down there. I haven't been a dad for several years. I'm kind of not used to this. So she actually ended up moving down with all of his siblings. So I got regular visits every weekend, and it was nice because it was kind of back into a pattern being dad. And then October of 2004, my mom suddenly, without warning, had an aneurysm and passed. Now, mind you, she was my example of being a Christian. She would help people out on her days off, driving to Tampa for medical appointments. Didn't matter who you were. Her and my dad had gotten involved with their local church, and they invited me a couple times, but again, it wasn't my thing. So after she passed, and I really become angry at God now. How can you take somebody who's your big witness and get him out of here? Through the Army, I had seen nothing but heartache, God definitely not working through the rest of the world. This is post 9/11, so terror, terrorists, all of this stuff were amped up and just didn't make any sense to believe in a God that wasn't intervening with anything. So I became an atheist. And I was angry. I was angry at God, I was angry at people, I was angry at everything. Got full custody of my son. He was 8, 9, 10. And when this is going on, he's playing video games at more adult level, mature, graphic violence and all the craziness. So, whatever. You let him watch whatever movies. I just didn't care. Not that that really matters. It's just I didn't care what was going into his mind. I was letting so much garbage into his mind, into my mind, all the things that had happened to him. But that's his testimony. Mine was I had allowed these things to happen and had to deal with that now. Then somebody challenged me. Why don't you go ahead and read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John? I had tried reading the Bible, but I even had one given to me as a gift with my name in gold lettering. But it was a King James version. So you had the begots, the begot. I'd be getting out of this because it's just driving me crazy.
Lots of these, thous, arts.
Yep.
Yes.
So words that didn't make sense to me, they were Old English. I'm not old or English. So they gave me the Message Bible. And it's written in a dialect that makes sense to me. It's written in modern English by Eugene Peterson to really hit where I'm at. And by the time I got through Matthew, I was like, where is this Jesus in any of the teaching that I've heard? By the time I got through John, I was angrier that nobody had ever talked about this Jesus in the Bible. You could hear all the sermons in the world, but the gospel of Jesus was a completely different category of how to act, how to live. Oh yeah, and he could understand where I was coming from because he had lived as a man on earth going through all these problems. He had family members that passed away. He had friends that betrayed him. He had friends that died. And he brought them back. So that made it even better. But he knew the struggles, and that made a difference. It wasn't I had to hit all these check marks. It was I could meet this guy. Then I got invited to Grace. My ex-wife would bring my son to Grace for breakfast and youth. About the same age as Taylor. Yeah. And you remember Clay's breakfast buffets. So I thought, how good could a Sunday morning church breakfast be? Some cold pancakes and some chewy sausage.
And some nasty coffee.
Oh,
That's a
the
church.
turpentine.
That's a church staple.
The old
Nasty
custard
coffee.
hot.
Yes.
The silver bullet giant.
Yes.
Oh. But anyway, I get here and there's this big crazy guy wearing a tank top, pair of shorts, and flip flops at the door. Brian Brown, no relation, but big smile and a really firm handshake of, "Hey, welcome." And I felt like, all right, what's going on around here? Most churches you have to wear slacks and a button down, but this guy's in flip flops and shorts. All right. And then there's Carl and Jerry, the brothers. They would give you a hug as soon as you got here, or Harold Shelton, another one that would just bear hug you as soon as you walk in the door. So it makes you feel like you're at home. But I rounded the corner into the cafe, and there were people everywhere just having a blast. sitting together having breakfast, and it was a full buffet bar. So I had breakfast. It was good. And then I start hearing guitars and drums. I'm like, that's not a normal sound for a church.
Where's the organ, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see the big steeple and the stained glass. Where's the organ? And walk over, and there's actually a band playing kind of a rocking song. So I go in and check it out. And this guy gets up and he starts doing announcements, and he's wearing a Hawaiian shirt and blue jeans. And I'm like, no, you must be getting ready to introduce the pastor. No, that was George, the pastor. And it was the black and white Tommy Bahama.
Oh,
where he looked like Charlie Sheen from
2.5 Men.
Yep.
Yeah, one of my favorites.
Yep. So he starts preaching about this Jesus, and it matches up to what I just read. So I'm like, there might be something to this place. I felt like I was welcome. There were people that actually cared about me showing up. The pastor's preaching from the Bible pretty good. Lines up fairly well with what I've just read. So I think I'll give it a shot. And a few months later, sitting in the right side of the sanctuary, about halfway back, I said yes to Jesus again in my seat. Went up, prayed at the altar, the sinner's prayer, forgive me, Lord, for I've sinned, and please join me in my heart. And it's not the prayer, it's the action of allowing God into your heart that's the big deal. The prayer is just an outward, verbal reminder to yourself and to those around you that's what was so important. Then I got involved, did my Emmaus walk, did step studies, Bible studies, and I was voracious. I listened to Moody Radio, I listened to Kingdom FM, I listened to everything I could. I read everything I could get my hands on. I started journaling, doing the UHS. It just went crazy.
The one thing that sitting here, just reflecting on your story, and all the way up until this point, of continuing to grow, continuing to learn, and you are one of the most avid readers, really book listeners / readers that I know. The one thing that I'm amazed at is how God's hand, and I mentioned this a little even with Taylor Foley when I talked with him, about how God's hand was in each and every part of your story. Even before you realized it, and even after you realized it. And how God was able to craft and redeem things in a way that led to us sitting here even.
Yeah, no matter how far I went, there was always that hook that I felt in the back of my collar. It was like, no, I'm going to save you from yourself. You don't want to do that. You don't want to go there. You don't want to be... So God never left me, even though I walked away from Him.
And I want to jump into one specific thing about your story, because there's one thing I think that is unique to you, but also I think that there might be students that are in a similar situation, not the exact same, obviously, but a similar situation, and it's this idea of having a moment of saying yes to Christ and then saying yes again, because as you shared, your experience was for a while. You had this moment of saying yes to Christ and discovering a relationship, but then because of church hurt and past experiences, that sort of stopped, even to the point where you questioned your own faith.
Yeah.
So move all the way back to say, I don't even know if God exists.
Yeah.
And then, years later, there's this moment that you shared in the sanctuary right over there of saying yes again to a relationship with Christ. And while students, they don't have as many years as we do, but I think there might be some students that, for example, it could be a middle schooler that said yes to Jesus at VBS one year. And maybe for the past few years, they just haven't really lived into that. Or maybe we have high schoolers listening that on a retreat or big stuff or wherever, a camp somewhere else even, they said yes to a relationship with Jesus. And like you said, not just the action of saying yes, but this true inner work of letting Christ in to rule their life and rule their heart.
Oh, yeah.
But maybe they haven't fully lived into it either. Maybe things have happened and they've gotten sidetracked and haven't really invested in it, or maybe they're even going through some doubts that you went through. I was wondering, what would you say to those students watching that might be in a similar situation of having said yes before, but maybe just gone backwards, maybe just backslid a little bit?
So last week I was talking with one of our youth, and they were struggling with some issues, and they stepped away from reading their Bible regularly and spending time with God because they chose to do some things differently. And they're like, I know what my Bible's going to say. It's going to condemn me. It's going to convict me. It's going to tell me that I'm horrible and I've done this and I've done that. And I said, well, you got to stop and think. The Bible also says that you are still dearly loved and a child of God. That was the one thing that nobody ever told me when I was a youth and when I was a young adult was Jesus loves you no matter what. That love for your child, nothing changes that. Your love for that child. And that's how God feels about me. That's how God feels about you. That He loves you. He wants you to have the best. As a parent of an adult, I get to see my son make really horrible decisions and really great decisions. That doesn't change the fact that I love him. What changes is the fact that I can help him walk through that. And that's what Jesus is there for. He's going to walk with you through these situations. You can still choose to turn around and come back and still develop that relationship with Jesus.
There's real comfort in knowing that this turning back, or repenting is another word that we use, means turning from and turning toward. It's comforting to know that God's not going to be there ready to swipe you, wipe you down and say, how dare you, how could you do this? But like you said, there's this other part where God's going to welcome us back. It's the story of the prodigal son.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
That's the story I think of.
Yeah. I hear that story, and I've been that prodigal son.
Yeah.
I've also gone through a phase where I was the older brother and was angry because God would forgive all this. But then, as a father, getting to be the dad on the other side of that, where just this past June, just a few weeks ago, I got to go surprise my son on his 25th birthday and give him a hug for the first time in 5 years. And to remind him that he is still loved no matter what. That going through that situation with him has opened my heart to see how God really does love us, each and every one of us.
That's amazing. A couple other questions for you. And you've said a couple things already that could answer this, but I want to ask it anyways. What is something that you didn't know, looking back as a middle or high schooler, that now you wish you knew?
Financial Peace University would have been a great help back then, but it's never too late. And the personal relationship, we're going through a series as a church about emotionally healthy spirituality and reconnecting with Jesus. So if you have that opportunity to connect now and start developing that relationship now, look at it as a friendship that you try to spend time together and get to know each other. That's really what getting to know Jesus is about. Reading through your Bible. If you have questions, ask. We do a Tuesday night Bible study. You can check it out. And
I'll plug the info. It's right here. It's right now. It's on the screen. Look at it right here. Here's the info.
But yeah, just getting to know that God is love, and love isn't just a ooey gooey squishy feeling. It's an action. It's Jesus coming is God's love because He came to partake in our problems, live our life, live under His creation, and then still have that relationship with God. Nothing changed that. Despite what Satan did, despite what he threw at him. And we get that same privilege. We get to have that same relationship and have that same power that changed the world through 12 guys who were highly dysfunctional people, just like you and me.
And I
No,
love,
they were probably your age.
I was just going to say, young.
Yeah.
12 young guys who are all dysfunctional.
And we know John and James were probably in their mid-teens.
Yeah.
Which is even more phenomenal.
And I think
Peter was probably maybe 22, 23.
he would have been one of the older, the oldest. And I think one thing, you saying that, and it goes back to what you just said before that even, is the power of relationship.
Yeah.
And I think the more that we can view being here, not just even being here, but being, connecting with God outside of these four walls of our youth room of our church, the more that we can view it as a relationship and not just a routine or just a just this day-to-day monotony kind of thing, the more that we view it as a relationship, as if we were investing in a relationship with a friend or a significant other, the more that we can view it like that for what it really is, I mean, the better we're going to be for it.
When you give your best time to God, He's going to give you His best throughout the rest. Your other relationships are going to go through the roof, be so much deeper, so much more intimate, and that's an okay thing. To not be afraid to be open with friends. That's another thing I would love to share with you guys is find good friends. Find good friends and develop trust.
That's good. So one more question as we close our time together. Is there maybe this is something that God's been teaching you recently? Maybe this is a verse that has just really been influential in your life. Maybe this is just sort of another big idea or big principle that's helped guide you. But what's something as sort of a last bit of encouragement or inspiration that you would want to share with middle or high schoolers watching? Having you sitting here right now, looking back on many years and many experiences of God being present with you and teaching you and leading you and guiding you. What's something that you would say to students now?
So 14 years ago, I came across a verse that challenged me on how I think. That's Romans 12:2. Do not conform any longer to the patterns of this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that you may test God's will for your life, His perfect, pleasing, and good will for your life. And renewing my mind, it's an ongoing thing. It's not something that's once and done. It evolves. It creates this time to listen to others, find out where they're coming from, listen to God, where His point of view is, what His perspective on the situation is. Those changes have, and it's you guys that have really forced me to learn more and grow in my faith to be able to share that with you.
Not just a one-time renewal.
No, it's an ongoing,
a continual renewing of the mind.
I don't know if you remember when George did a sermon where he had clay pots and clay, when he had a metal plate on the stage. And he said, when your heart hardens, God can't use it. He's got to try to reshape it and remold it. But when it's stiffened up and he slams it down on the stage, it will echo through the whole sanctuary. He has to break it. Then he has to start over. And he picks up this moldable clay and he starts shaping it. And that's where you have to stay in that verse. Is you have to be that moldable clay to keep changing to fit into what God wants you to do.
So. Jason, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing. I know that you, I have the privilege of being friends with Jason outside of just, serving together in youth ministry. And you not only talk the talk, but you walk the walk, where you live out what it looks like to be this moldable person under Christ, but yet still having a boldness and faith to be able to proclaim who He is. So just thank you for being here. Thank you for who you are and the example you are to many students that watch and benefit from your discipleship. So
thank you. And just to let you guys know, sometimes it's not easy and it's pretty painful sometimes, but the growth on the other side, the change and the ability to meet people where they're at is so much more reassuring. That I can be an example. It's not about me, it's about being pointing to God. And that that's the big difference, is trying to learn to be usable.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Thank you all for watching. We hope that you were able to take something away. We love you. We'll see you later. Have a good one, guys.
Thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. We miss you so much. In order to stay in touch, make sure you follow us on all of our social medias. Stay connected, stay involved, stay updated on what's happening at Rev. We have an Instagram, we have a Facebook, we have a TikTok that's brand new. If you go like all of our posts on TikTok, maybe I can manage for one of you guys or a couple of you guys to get a shout out or two on our TikTok account. But go like all of the videos and go follow. I miss you guys so much, and I'm super excited to see you guys again soon in person. Fingers crossed. I'll talk to you guys later.